For today's little adventure, we're going to be making homemade flour tortillas. You need 2 cups flour, 3/4 teaspoon salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 3 tablespoons of shortening, and 3/4 cup water. So we're going to mix our dry ingredients together, then we're going to crumble our shortening, or I'm using the sticks today instead of actual shortening because I'm out of shortening and I don't have a lot of stuff in my pantry and we don't want to go get some. Anyway, so you will take the shortening and crumble it into the dry mixture until it looks kind of like a crumbly consistency. Then you'll make a well in the middle, add some water, mix slowly until you get kind of a doughy consistency. Then you're gonna put some flour out on the table and you're going to knead it a little bit in the flour until it's a nice dough. Then you're gonna let it rest for 30 minutes, then divide it into 12 little portions, roll those out, and then we're gonna cook them on a medium-high on the stove, about 2 minutes each side, and then we're gonna put them on a plate and eat them if we want to. So please join us today for making our homemade flour tortillas. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna measure out our flour, which I have mine in a plastic container, so that way no buggies will get in a bag. And I don't use flour that often because I don't bake as much as I used to. I have this lovely leveler here. Clean it off. And then I'm gonna put that in my bowl. 1 cup, I need 2. Now, some people will talk about using 4 cups to make more tortillas, like 24 tortillas, because 2 cups makes 12 tortillas. You can do that, but that means you also have to double everything else in your recipe. So there is my flour in the bowl. So next we are going to add 3/4 teaspoon salt and half a teaspoon of baking powder. So baking powder, not baking soda, there is a difference. Baking powder is only used for baking, where baking soda can be used for many different things. Okay, so we said half a teaspoon of baking powder. So with mine, it has a lever of its own right here. I'm gonna put that in there. And then we're gonna do some salt. And so salt can be a little tricky for me because I have more pour it, so I'm gonna use my cup that I used for measuring my flour to go in here, so that way if I go over. So 3/4 teaspoon salt, and then I'm going to use my fork, move my stuff out of the way, and I have added salt on my floor or on my table. So we're going to mix it all together now. All right, so now we have our 3 tablespoons of lard, shortening, whatever you want to use, and then we're going to use our hands to crumble up in the flour. That I'm gonna, all right, we made a little well for our water. We're gonna put our water in there. So we've got 3/4 cup water. Probably using my hands a little bit easier, I think. So we want to get all of the flour and the water moisture mixed together. We don't want flour on the bottom of our bowl. Yes, it's very sticky. All right, so they want us to knead the dough until it's smooth. That's what it says. So, I don't know if you guys can see. Sorry, it's hard to. Like I said, I'm very low tech with my things, with my channel. I have a phone that I use. I have an old little phone stand that my son gave me that he made at, I think it was Home Depot many years ago that I use. So yes, naturally when I knead dough, I think about kneading like this. I'm pounding the dough. You want to get kind of smooth. Okay, so we're gonna now we're gonna split the dough. So I'm sitting half an hour. We're gonna split the dough into 4s first. I got this one here, separated it like that, and then we're gonna kind of put that in a little bit of a length there, and we're gonna split it into 3rds. 1, 2. So the goal is to have 12 balls so we can make our tortillas. Now these are not gonna be perfect circles because why? I don't ever do anything perfect. If you actually see any of my baking or cooking things, you will see that I make mistakes, that I make a big mess. You know what? It's okay. If you have fun doing it, that's all that matters. Are these gonna be perfect? No. But am I gonna enjoy them later? Oh yeah, I will. So we'll just take it as it is. I got one rolled out. Do a couple, at least one more for you, so you can kind of see how it works, and then I'll show you them all when I'm done. Now, if you wanted to make larger tortillas, because these are going to be small tortillas, if you want to make larger tortillas, then you would have only split them into 8s instead of 12s, stuff like that. So it's really the size of your tortilla depends on the size, on how many balls you make. And so I'm only making 12, because that's what I did my thing on. Okay. So I will finish that up, and I'll show you the frying part. So these are all now rolled out, and I'm going to heat up my pan. And then I'm going to cook them for 2 minutes on each side, and then they'll be ready to go into a plate and have a towel over them until I'm ready to use them. So there's our first tortilla. We're going to wait 2 minutes and then flip it over and put it on the other side. So you're just cooking it long enough to make it bubble up and get, well, hard. But hard soft, not hard as in like hardtack. So we'll see how that works. Look closely, you can see some bubbles popping up on one side. If you look, that's what you are looking for, is looking for those bubbles to pop up. It means that it's actually cooking the way it should be. Yes, this is an old pan, so it might stick a little. So there are different things that you can make with flour. Flour is such a versatile product. Cookies, cakes, tortillas, bread, like so many things, stuff that you like use flour when you make fried chicken. Some people use cornmeal, but it's that idea that you're using something and creating so many different products with it. I think that is the awesomest thing about flour is that it's so versatile and it makes so many things. And yeah, and I love to bake. And hopefully this year I will start doing some more baking and just cooking for my channel, and I hope you guys will appreciate that when it comes around. So my skillet is having some issues, so I went ahead and moved over to my griddle. So we're going to see how this works on my griddle. Set temperature to about 375, because 375 to 400 is considered medium high heat on a griddle. So we're just going to kind of see how that works out. So we can see the bubbles popping. We can see the little bubbles in the tortilla, which is what we want them to do. We want them to bubble up. So then we flip them over. There's little brown spots, but not dark black spots. You can see I flipped them over and they have the light brown little bubble spots right there, which is great. That's what you're looking for. You don't want them to be black, which is what my pan was doing. So we switched over to the griddle. My pan was a little too hot and it's kind of old and it was sticking. So kind of be careful what you're working with. But yeah, so when you are making your tortillas, you want them to have this light brown little spots all over the place. And normally that's where the bubbles pop up. On the other side is kind of where you see those spots. So yeah. And I'll show you my pile of tortillas when I am done. So I finished making all the tortillas. A little pile there. There are many ways you can eat these. You can use these as a taco, you can make it into tostado, and you can always just, however you guys want to make it. Sometimes I'll cut these up and I will bake them and make chips out of them. Sometimes I'll just use them for taco shells. Sometimes I will fry them in oil to make them crispy and harder. And then I'll make a tostado out of it. So it's just kind of whatever you guys want to do with them. And my kids like it when I cut them up and put cinnamon butter and cinnamon sugar on them and make them. That's also good too. Anyway, thank you for joining us for today's little adventure. Please join us for our next today's little adventure.